Before starting this video, I do want to give a shout out to my patrons that support the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are some great benefits for you if you want to look at the Patreon link down below. So with that out of the way, let's get into this week's video. What's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubSubMTG. Glad to have you here. Today I wanted to set my sights on this new version of Urabrask right here and to see how powerful this Urabrask can get. So I'm going to try to make it as high powered, even try to make it as CEDH as possible with all the resources and tools in Magic the Gathering. So obviously this is going to be a storm build with his abilities right here. It does have first strike, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urabrask deals 1 damage to target opponent. You add a red mana. Then if you pay 1 and also cast 3 or more instant or sorcery spells this turn, you can flip it back into the Saga. We will then flip it to the Great Work right here. So it does have 3 lore chapters. For the first lore chapter, it deals 3 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. For its second lore chapter, you create 3 treasure tokens. Then essentially for the last chapter, you do get a Yawgmoth's Will for anybody's graveyard. Then you'll flip him back into Urabrask. So there is a pretty neat interaction between the front side and the back side when you flip it back to Urabrask. So because you can play instant and sorcery spells from each graveyard, you can cast those spells. They will get exiled though, but when you do, Urabrask will trigger and you will deal 1 damage to target opponent, and you'll also get a red mana floating in the air. Plus on top of that, with the treasure you made, you can play different colored spells as well from the graveyard. So say for example, you're going to storm off and somebody wants to counter spell one of your spells that you're trying to play. You could easily counter that spell if there's another counter spell in any graveyard, which most likely there is, because if we're playing high powered games, usually there's going to be a lot of different counter spells in the game. Also in CEDH, this is actually a pretty good body in general when you think about it. 4/4 first strike is absolutely a great body for CEDH. So what's really neat about this new version of Urabrask is we make rituals that much better, because when we cast them, we'll add an extra mana on top of that. We'll also deal damage to an opponent, so that's great as well. But the main focus is getting that extra mana so that we can make our rituals even better. So for example, with Desperate Ritual and Pyretic Ritual, you'll pay 2 mana into them, and instead of getting 3 mana, you'll get 4 mana for that ritual right there. Just a great ability right there, just to pump up extra mana, just so that we can storm off with a lot of different cards in our deck. So Urabrask definitely does make our rituals even better. Also on top of that, we do want to have a lot of copy instant and sorcery spells in this list so that we can punish our opponents further and also get some mana on top of that. So obviously we want to include stuff like Fork and Reverberate right here. But if Urabrask did have the Magecraft ability, it would be so much better. I mean, it would be probably way too busted because you could put a lot of combos on top of him. A great creature we could add in here would be Dualcaster Mage, because it does enter the battlefield. You could copy a target instant or sorcery spell. And of course we do want to combo 2 wins, so we do have Twin Flame in here. Just a very efficient 2-card clean combo in mono red right here, where we can make infinite Dualcaster Mages and they will have haste on the battlefield so that we can swing to our opponents for victory. So we do also have some great storm creatures that really help support our build right here. So the first one I did think about was Birgi, Goddess Storytelling. She does have the same ability as Urabrask, adding a red mana, but on top of that, you could add any spell instead of just instant and sorceries. So she definitely amps up our storm strategy. On top of that, we do have Stormkiln Artist right here. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. So instead of floating red mana like Urabrask, we're going to be making treasure tokens with this to add more mana. Also, if we do want to filter through our deck, we do also have Darcy right here for 1 mana. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you surveil 1. This is definitely absolutely perfect in here, because when we're casting instant or sorcery spells, we want to filter through our deck so that we can find our win cons. We could also filter cards into the graveyard with Darcy's ability so that we could use instant and sorceries with Urabrask's backside. So of course we want to put cards into our graveyard, but we also want to put cards into our opponent's graveyard as well. So wheel effects are going to be excellent in here, like Wheel of Fortune, obviously one of the best wheel effects in the game. I also do like Winds of Change, especially in those early turns where we could really screw with our opponent's hands where they mulligan to keep. For 1 mana, we do have each player shuffles their cards from their hand into their library, then draw that many cards. I know their cards are not going to the graveyard, but I do feel like this is a great disruption spell for many people that want to keep their hands the way they want it to, but instead they have to put it into their library instead. I did also want to mention some proliferate effects. There's not too many in red, so we do have to use some colorless options. So the first one I did think about was actually Throne of Geth. I know this is kind of janky, but there's a reason why I did want to put it in here. So I do know this is a little fringe, but what's really great about about the Throne of Geth ability right there, to sacrifice an artifact to proliferate, is when we're in the second saga chapter of the Great Work, we make 3 treasure tokens. We could sacrifice one of those treasure tokens so that we could go to the 3rd saga chapter. So that way we could kind of turbo our way so that we could get that 3rd saga chapter to trigger so that we could flip back into Urabrask. I'm still debating with myself if this is good or not. Most likely not, but I did want to throw it in there just as an option. The deck doesn't really have a use for Throne of Geth besides for the Great Work, so it might not be a great card to add in here, but I did again want to throw it in here just for the idea. We do have a better version here with Staff of Completion. For 3 mana, we essentially have 6 abilities right here where we could pay 1 life, destroy target permanent you control, pay 2 life, add 1 mana of any color, pay 3 life, proliferate, pay 4 life, draw a card, and pay 5 mana to untap Staff Completion. So again, we're trying to flip the Great Work so that we can get that ability online to storm off and get more mana with Urabrask's ability. So this is a great way where we could pay 3 life, proliferate, and we could untap it so that we could proliferate again, so that we could turn through the Great Work, so that we could get Urabrask online again. And outside of the saga, it's actually pretty great for what you do. You could add some mana, you could proliferate, and you could draw some cards, and you could also untap it so you could repeat that process again. So it's not really going to be a dead card like Throne of Geth. This actually does have some other abilities outside of just proliferating. Also, what's very nice about this version of Urabrask, it's actually a combo in the command zone on top of just being a great value engine. You can ping your opponents, add some mana, ping your opponents some more, and we could also take advantage of that with a combo right here. So how to combo off, you could easily have a mana ritual like Jessica's Will and also Reiterate. So what you'll do first is you'll cast Jessica's Will, and because of that cast, you'll get 1 red mana from Urabrask. Then you will pay for Reiterate and also the buyback cost so that you can put it back to your hand. Then you will resolve Jessica's Will's copy. Then with that mana, you'll cast Reiterate again to copy the original Jessica's Will on the stack, and you can repeat this process as many times as you'd like. So what's really neat about this interaction is the fact that Urabrask will see Reiterate constantly being casted. Urabrask will trigger dealing 1 damage to target opponent. Again, you're going to be doing this as many times as you'd like to cast Reiterate so that you could constantly ping everybody in the face so that you could win the game. However, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video on this new version of Urabrask. I do feel like it's pretty powerful for what we get right here as a great Storm Commander. This definitely has a lot of potential in the CEDH format because of the combo potential that Urabrask does have. We'll see what happens though. I do feel like this is a pretty powerful commander for what we get right here. However, let me know down below what are your thoughts and opinions on this new Urabrask, and can it stand up to CEDH? Let me know down below in the comments. I do feel like it has some good legs, but again, I do feel like there's other better commanders out there, especially in different colors. But I do feel like as a mono red commander, this is excellent in a storm strategy for sure. To be quite honest, I'm super happy to see a new version of Urabrask being so good. I am very excited to see what kind of potential Urabrask brings to the table. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And with that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.